the beginning, there was nothing, but God had a vision of a world where life could grow. On the first day, he created light and separated it from darkness. Next, he made the sky, dividing the waters above from those below. Then he shaped the land and the seas, and made the earth green with plants and trees. He placed the sun, moon, and stars in the sky to mark time and seasons. After that, he filled the sea with fish and the sky with birds, and on the sixth day, he made animals to live on land, every kind, from the smallest insect to the strongest beast. But among all that life, there was no one to think, to wonder, or to speak with God. And so God chose to create a new kind of being, one that could think, feel, and choose. Not just an animal, but someone who could understand and love. He took dust from the earth and shaped it into a human form. Then he breathed life into it. The man opened his eyes and saw the world for the first time. God called him Adam, which means from the earth. God placed Adam in a garden called Eden, a peaceful place full of trees, rivers, and animals. Adam explored it with joy, gave names to the creatures, and cared for the land. But as time passed, he began to feel something was missing. He was alone. God saw this and said,
"It is not good for man to be alone."
So he returned to the earth and shaped another being equal to Adam, but unique. He gave her life just as he had given it to Adam. Her name was Lilith. And after her creation, God said to them,
"You are equals. Walk this garden together. Care for it and care for each other. Learn, grow, explore. One is not above the other. You are both made from dust, and to dust you will return. But while you live, live side by side."
Adam and Lilith listened carefully to what God had spoken. He had given them the garden not only to live in, but to care for, to explore, and to understand. They were not simply placed in Eden as guests, they were entrusted with it as its first guardians. And so, they began their life together, surrounded by animals that walked beside them without fear. They learned to work together, not out of duty, but out of wonder. Adam would wake early to observe the behavior of the animals. He watched the lions rest in the shade, the birds feed their young, and the wolves return in small groups to sleep near the trees.
The way they move, it's always with purpose. The lion doesn't chase unless it must. The owl waits before it strikes. Everything here has its rhythm.
Even silence has rhythm, if you listen to it long enough.
Lilith, however, rarely stayed in one place. Her curiosity pulled her toward every new sound, every unfamiliar tree, every path not yet taken. While Adam observed what was around him, Lilith asked what was beyond. She touched the bark of trees with her hands, picked up stones to study their shapes, and dipped her fingers in the water to feel its temperature change from morning to evening. While Adam often moved with caution, Lilith moved with confidence. She was not afraid to walk alone, not even into the deeper parts of the garden. There was something restless inside her, a hunger to understand the meaning behind it all. One day, as Adam sat beneath a fig tree observing a group of animals at the riverbank, Lilith returned from a long walk.
You missed the northern edge again. There's a clearing beyond the tall palms. It smells like cinnamon bark. I saw deer there, and birds I hadn't heard before. Their feathers were red like fire.
You went that far alone?
I wasn't alone. The wind was with me, and the birds.
Adam admired her courage, even if he didn't always understand it. There were times he preferred the familiar. Lilith, on the other hand, grew impatient with anything that repeated too often. She would lie on her back at night, staring at the stars, trying to follow their slow movements.
There's something beyond all this. I don't know what it is, but I can feel it. The garden is perfect, but it can't be all there is. I want to see everything God has made. not just what's around me now.
They shared the garden, but they moved through it differently. Adam found comfort in order and routine. Lilith found energy in change and discovery. Still, they talked often, sometimes about the names of animals, other times about dreams.
Do you think God dreams?
Yes, and I think we're part of that dream. But dreams don't end at the garden gate. Maybe one day we'll be allowed to see more.
They ate together under the shade of tall trees, swam in the river when the air was hot, and rested when the sun dipped low. Yet even in moments of rest, Lilith's mind was in motion. She never stopped asking questions. She wanted to know why one tree grew taller than another, why the birds nested high while others made homes in the grass, why some creatures were drawn to water and others to firelight.
Did you ever wonder why God made so many things we don't yet understand? Why give us this mind, if not to use it?
Maybe to test if we'll be patient, or maybe to see if we'll ask him directly.
But even in their differences, there was still harmony, at least for now. They were both made from the same earth and given the same breath. They both loved the garden, even if they loved it in different ways. From the earliest days of their time in Eden, it became clear that Lilith's bond with nature was unlike anything Adam had ever seen. Lilith didn't try to master the garden. She became part of it. When she walked alone through the deeper parts of Eden, she was learning.
The garden speaks, not in words, but in signs. The curve of a vine, the way bark peels from a tree, the path a butterfly takes before landing. Nothing is random. I don't ask the earth to reveal itself. I wait until it's ready to show me.
Adam often watched her as she returned from these long walks, her hands filled with leaves or herbs. In the evenings, they would sit near the river, and Lilith would speak about the things she'd discovered.
Today I found a patch of roots that give off a bitter smell when the air is warm. I think they fight infection. The deer were drawn to them, only the sick ones. It's as if they know.
How do you remember all these things?
I don't try to. They stay with me on their own, like they want to be used.
She never approached nature as something to control. She watched, she waited, and she understood. Her hands became skilled at mixing leaves and bark into salves, her fingers delicate when treating scratches or burns. She wasn't taught this by anyone. The world itself was her teacher. One day, while walking along a quiet trail near the western edge of the garden, Lilith saw movement in the tall grass. A lion, large, powerful, but clearly in pain, lay on its side. Blood matted its fur near the shoulder, and it struggled even to breathe. Adam would have stepped back, but Lilith knelt down beside the creature without hesitation.
Pain isn't something to fear. It's something to understand. If I don't turn away, if I stay still enough, even the wildest creature will let me help.
She brought water from the nearby stream, soaking pieces of soft bark to clean the wound. Then, from her pouch, she removed a handful of crushed herbs, plants she had collected days earlier, not knowing yet why. She pressed the paste gently into the lion's shoulder, whispering as she worked. The lion didn't growl. It didn't run. It breathed slowly, as if it knew it was safe. Later that night, as the stars appeared overhead, Lilith shared the moment with Adam.
He didn't flinch, not once. I think he trusted me, not because I'm strong, but because I didn't carry fear.
You didn't even call me.
I didn't need to. The garden gave me what I needed. The stream, the herbs, the silence. It was all there.
From that day forward, animals began to seek her. Birds landed on her shoulders. Injured creatures approached without hesitation. Even the most cautious of beasts would linger near where she walked. Lilith never treated animals as lesser beings. She didn't see herself as their ruler, nor their savior. She saw them as fellow creations, each with their own place, their own wisdom. And in turn, they responded to her with trust.
I don't want to change the garden. I want to know it. I want to understand what keeps it breathing. I think that's what God meant when he told us to care for it, not to rule over it, but to be part of it without breaking it.
She often told Adam that books wouldn't have helped her even if they existed. Her learning came from the flight of birds, from the way certain plants leaned toward or away from her fingers, from the scent in the air before sunrise.
This vine climbs the trees on the north side only. I think it follows the cold. Maybe it prefers shade.
I wouldn't have noticed.
That's why we're both here. You see things I don't, and I see things you haven't yet looked for.
But over time, something began to shift between Adam and Lilith. At first, the differences between them seemed harmless. Adam often spoke with confidence, sharing what he believed to be truths. Lilith listened, curious and quiet, not always agreeing, but choosing peace. But over time, the words Adam spoke began to take on a new tone, one not of shared purpose, but of hierarchy.
You know, I was made first for a reason. I was given the task to name the animals. I was shown the garden before you were even shaped.
Yes, you were made first, but that does not mean you were made greater.
But the order matters. God gave me responsibility. You were made as a helper, someone to walk with me, to support me.
To walk with you, not behind you.
The words hung between them like a wall just beginning to rise. Adam didn't notice it yet, but Lilith did. The next days were filled with conversations that began as sharing and ended in conflict. Adam believed he was the center, that things flowed from him outward. Lilith believed the garden was a circle, not a ladder.
Why must everything be questioned with you? There is order to things. Someone must lead.
Then lead yourself. I will not follow a path that was not mine to choose.
At night, the distance between them grew wider. They still sat near each other, still shared food, still spoke, but something was changing. The warmth between them was cooling, and the stars above seemed a little quieter. Lilith began spending more time away from the central parts of Eden. While Adam stayed near the garden's heart, Lilith wandered to its edges. There, near the hills and the misty rivers, she found silence that did not judge and life that did not expect anything of her. She spoke to herself more often now, not out loud for others to hear, but just enough for the wind to carry her words.
He speaks of order, but I feel a cage in it. I was not born to serve, not Adam, not anyone. My hands were made to heal, not to submit. My eyes were made to see, not to bow.
One evening, Adam came to find her sitting alone near the stream, her feet in the water, her hands tracing patterns in the mud.
You've been distant.
So have you, just in a different way.
I've been thinking about us, about what God said. You were made as my companion. That means you're meant to be beside me, yes, but there has to be structure. That's how things work. Someone leads, someone follows.
And who decided you would lead? Was it God, or was it you?
It's not pride. It's just how it is. The way I see it, the one who comes first carries the weight, the direction, the voice.
Then carry it alone.
Arguments became common. Adam still loved Lilith in his own way, but he could not see that his view of her role was narrowing her world. Lilith still cared for Adam, but she could not breathe in a space where she was expected to shrink.
He wants peace, but only if it is quiet obedience. I want peace too, but not if it costs my voice.
She still returned some evenings to share stories from the parts of Eden Adam never visited.
I saw an owl today, near the northern trees. It blinked twice before flying.
Why go so far? There's nothing you need that isn't right here.
That's where you're wrong. I need the silence. I need the unknown. I need to find meaning without being told what it should be.
You're making this harder than it needs to be.
No, I'm just refusing to make it smaller.
Sometimes Adam tried to soften his stance, to return to simpler moments. He'd bring her fruit or ask about the birds. But Lilith sensed that his gestures came not from understanding, but from wanting to keep things as they were. Lilith was not angry all the time. She was still gentle with animals, still kind to the trees, still full of quiet joy when she found a new flower blooming. But the more she was told who she should be, the more she pulled away.
Why should I bend myself to fit into someone else's version of harmony? If balance means I must be less, then it is not balance. It is control.
The last time they sat together by the river before true separation, the conversation began softly.
Do you still believe we were meant to be one?
Yes, but not like this.
Then how?
With space to breathe, with room to choose. You want unity, but only if I agree with you. That's not unity, Adam. That's silence, pretending to be peace.
She stood, brushing the dirt from her hands.
I won't disappear just to keep things calm. I won't lower my voice to be heard. I won't stay where I'm not seen for who I am.
And though she didn't leave that night, she stopped returning to the same places. Her body remained in Eden, but her spirit had moved. Adam looked for her less. He spoke less. And the air between them, once full of laughter and discovery, now carried only memories of what might have been. God had watched in silence. He saw the tension growing between Adam and Lilith, the words that no longer carried warmth, the gazes that turned away more often than they met. He saw Lilith walking alone towards something more. When he finally came to her, it was with the calm of the early morning. Lilith stood near the center of Eden beneath a tree that bore no fruit, a tree she often returned to when she needed silence. God's presence surrounded her. She knew he had come.
Lilith, the garden was made in harmony. Adam was given a role, and you too were given one beside him. But order has been disturbed. Your heart carries a resistance that no longer hides itself. Why do you pull away from what was given to you?
Because what was given to me came with a chain I did not choose.
You were not made to rule, nor to be ruled. You were created to walk with Adam. But someone must lead. Someone must follow.
Why must that be? You made us both from earth. You gave us both breath. And yet, I am asked to step back, to silence the voice you placed in me. I cannot do that.
Then I give you a choice. You may stay, but to remain in Eden, you must accept Adam's role as the head. This is the structure given to the garden. It is not punishment. It is order. If you cannot accept this, you may leave.
Lilith closed her eyes. She had known this was coming. She had felt it in the way the trees no longer swayed the same when she walked by, in the silence that grew even in nature itself, as if the garden had already sensed the decision forming inside her.
And if I leave?
Then your path will be your own, but it will be outside of Eden. You will no longer live beneath the protection of the garden. You will face the world beyond, the wilderness, the unknown. There will be no comfort, only freedom, and what you make of it.
Then I choose to go.
God did not respond immediately. The garden itself seemed to pause, as if surprised. He had given her the choice, thinking, perhaps, that she would fear the outside world, that Eden's beauty would be enough to keep her. But Lilith had never been one to stay because she was afraid. She stepped forward. She looked not at the garden, but at the sky. And then, something happened. Her back arched, not in pain, but in release. A force inside her stirred, not from outside, not from heaven, but from her own being. From within her, wings began to grow. They were deep and dark like the night before the first dawn. They moved slowly at first, as if waking from sleep. God watched her. He did not stop her. He did not raise his hand. He had given her the choice, and she had made it.
So be it.
I leave without anger, but I will not remain where I must bow to be accepted. I was not made to kneel.
Without another word, she spread her wings. They caught the air like they had always belonged to her. With one last breath of Eden's soft wind, Lilith lifted herself from the ground and flew beyond the edges of the world she had known. She did not cry. She did not look back. She left because she loved herself enough not to stay where she would have to forget who she was. The garden did not call her back. Adam did not chase her. Lilith flew until the green faded into sand. There, beyond the world shaped by divine order, she landed. The desert was vast, dry, and empty, but to her, it was not lifeless. It was honest.
Here, no one tells the wind where to blow. No one names the stones. No one asks me to be less so they can be more. This is not comfort, but it is truth, and I can build from truth.
Days passed, or nights. Time in the desert did not move like in Eden. There was no tree to shade her, no river to refresh her lips, but she did not falter. She found shelter among rocks. She spoke to the stars. She gathered dry herbs and mixed them the way she had in the garden.
I am not alone. I have the sky. I have the fire in my hands. I have the memory of Eden and the knowledge that I left it on my own 2 feet.
In the distance, the Red Sea shimmered, a place where stories would later speak of chaos and drowning, but for Lilith, it was stillness. The sea did not judge her. It did not ask who led and who followed. It simply moved, with no need for permission.
Some say I chose exile, but what I chose was freedom. The cost was high, but not higher than my soul.
Though Lilith had chosen her path without hesitation, and though her heart had not doubted her decision, time in the desert began to leave marks that no wind could erase. The first days had been filled with movement, but over time, the world around her grew still, and in that stillness, something heavier than sand settled inside her.
I asked for freedom, and I have it. But freedom is not always peace. It is also weight, the weight of standing alone, the weight of hearing only your own voice echo back.
There were days when her thoughts wandered back to Eden. She remembered the scent of the fig trees, the way the river sounded at dusk, the rhythm of Adam's footsteps beside hers.
Sometimes I remember his face, not the way he looked at me, but the way he didn't. How even when I stood beside him, he looked past me. He called it order. I called it absence.
Her body grew leaner. Her skin was darker from the sun. Her hair was tangled with dust and wind, but her spirit did not wither. Her days had rhythm now, gathering wood, boiling water, tending to the small shelter she had built from stone and dried roots. Her nights were filled with thoughts she spoke to the stars.
What is the purpose of creation if the created cannot question the hand that shaped them? What is the point of breath if it must be held in to keep the peace?
She sang to herself broken melodies with no words. That was a reminder that her voice still existed, even if no one answered it. And then, the dreams began. They came without warning, in sleep, or sometimes as she sat staring at the sea, shapes at the edge of her mind.
There is something in the dark that knows my name. I am not afraid. I think it's been waiting for me.
One night, as the wind moved without direction, demonic figures appeared. They were beings with wings, horns, and shifting shapes. Lilith sat still. She didn't speak at first. She only looked at them, and they looked at her. Something passed between them that needed no words. She stood slowly, walked toward them, and spoke.
You live without chains. You follow no command. I have searched for that. Now I see. I was not alone.
In their presence, something awakened in her, a power that came from within. Her body moved with purpose. Her breath deepened. That night, Lilith gave life. She mated with demons and gave birth to hundreds of demonic offspring. Those descendants were creatures with wings, sharp voices, and strong limbs. They circled her, crawled beside her, looked up at her with understanding. They were not made to obey. They were made to exist.
You don't belong to anyone. You were born by choice, not by command. You are free, as I am.
They moved through the night with energy and noise. Some flew, some crawled, some laughed in ways the wind had never heard. Around her, they formed a circle, wild and alive, and Lilith stood in the center. After Lilith left Eden, many things began to change there. What was once a place of perfect balance became uneven. The garden did not lose its color or life, but its rhythm had shifted. Where once there were two voices that walked and spoke and named the world together, now there was only one. Adam remained. He walked the same paths. He drank from the same rivers. He touched the same trees. But nothing responded the way it used to. The animals, once drawn to the calm of Eden, no longer came as close. The birds flew higher. Even the breeze, which once brought scents of fruit and blooming flowers, now felt still. Adam noticed it slowly. At first, he continued his tasks as usual. He named new creatures. He examined new plants. He spoke aloud to the world, believing that it listened. But with each passing day, the silence grew deeper, and his voice sounded smaller. He began to speak more to himself, as if to fill the space that had opened around him.
She used to speak too much, ask too many questions, always wanting to know more, go further, walk longer. And now it's just me, and everything is quiet.
There was no one to disagree with him now, no one to challenge him, no one to remind him that his way was not the only way. At first he thought he preferred it this way, but the silence was not peace. It was emptiness. In the early days after her departure, Adam still believed Lilith would return. He told himself she had gone to be alone, to think, to wander like she often did. He expected to see her walking back from the trees, holding new plants or telling new stories. But the days passed, then weeks, and Lilith did not return. He sat by the stream where they used to rest together and watch the water. He remembered her laughter. He remembered the way she touched the plants gently, how she listened more than she spoke. He remembered how she never waited for permission to explore.
She was never afraid. Not of me, not of God, not of the unknown. She moved like she belonged to herself.
He thought back to their arguments. He had believed he was right, that leadership had been given to him, that she was meant to follow. Now, with no one left to follow him, he began to wonder what that leadership had truly meant. One evening, Adam walked to the center of the garden and called out to God. His voice carried confusion and something that sounded like regret.
The woman you gave me, she is gone. She left me alone. I did what you said. I named. I tended. I followed the order.
There was a long silence. Then he spoke again.
But if Eden is perfect, why does it feel unfinished now? Why does everything seem smaller without her here?
God listened. He did not answer immediately. He allowed Adam to speak until his voice grew quiet.
She was difficult. She didn't want to follow. She challenged me. But when she spoke, the animals listened. When she walked, the trees seemed to lean. The garden felt bigger with her in it.
Time passed and Adam stopped talking. Not because he had nothing more to say, but because the words felt heavier than before. He sat in the same place for many days. He ate the fruit in silence. He walked the garden, but he no longer named anything new. Everything reminded him of her. Everything reminded him of what had been lost. God returned to him again.
You ask me why she left, but the question is not why she left. The question is why she could not stay.
Adam turned his face slightly.
Because she refused the order.
She refused to be less than what she was. And that is not disobedience. That is the truth.
Adam lowered his head. He understood something now that he had not before.
She wasn't mine. She wasn't created to follow me. She was created to walk beside me.
And when she could not, she chose to walk alone.
Adam did not speak after that. The garden remained silent. But now it was a different kind of silence. Something had to be done, not to undo the past, but to offer a path forward. God stood above the garden, watching the man he had formed from dust and breath. He looked beyond Eden, to the edge of the world where Lilith now lived. Her choice had been clear. She had not been cast out. She had left on her own terms. Still, there was balance to consider, and God made a decision, not to bring Lilith back by force, but to offer her a question, the same way he once had offered her a choice. He called forth 3 angels. Their names were Senoi, Sansanoi, and Samangalaf. These angels were chosen to serve a clear purpose. Their mission was to reach Lilith, deliver God's command, and ensure that his will was fulfilled. God explained everything to them plainly, without ambiguity.
Go to Lilith. Speak the words I give you. Tell her that she must return to Eden. Her place remains open. If she accepts, all will be restored. If she resists, you will carry her back. Do not delay. Act with certainty.
The angels bowed in agreement. With full knowledge of their purpose, they left the higher realms and began their descent through the layers of heaven. They passed through fields of light, skies filled with divine order, and reached the boundary where creation meets the edge. Their destination was the Red Sea, where Lilith had settled. When the angels reached the shore, they saw her. She stood on a flat rock near the waves. Her face showed no surprise. She had sensed their arrival long before their feet touched the ground. Senoi stepped forward first. His tone was respectful but firm.
Lilith, we come with the voice of God. We bring his words to you.
Lilith remained still. She looked at each of them slowly, recognizing their names and their roles.
I know who you are, and I know why you've come.
God offers you the chance to return. Your place beside Adam remains as it was. You are welcome in Eden again. The order can be whole.
Lilith listened without interrupting, but her expression remained steady.
You may choose now. Return with us. All that was can continue.
She looked toward the sea for a moment, then back at them.
I left Eden for a reason. I lived there under rules that were not mine. I asked to be seen as equal, but I was not. That choice was given to me, and I accepted it. I do not wish to undo it.
The angels waited for a moment before responding. Their message carried weight. They had not come only to offer. They had also come to act.
God gave you a command. You are instructed to return. This is not only a message, it is a duty.
God gave me freedom when he created me. He shaped me from the same earth as Adam. He gave me breath, mind, and voice. I chose to walk away from a place that asked me to be less. I choose the same still.
You speak with strength, but your decision brings consequences. You were created with power, but not without limits. God ordered that if you reject this command, we must act. We were sent with authority. We will return you to Eden if you refuse.
Lilith did not raise her voice. She did not move from where she stood. She looked into their eyes and answered with full awareness of what her words would mean.
I accept what follows. I knew there would be a cost. I knew the path outside Eden would be hard, but it is mine, and I do not turn from it.
The angels stepped closer. The air around them changed. The sea darkened slightly under the weight of their mission. But Lilith remained still. She lifted her gaze to meet them again.
I will offer something in return, not to bargain, but to create understanding.
The angels paused.
Speak.
There will be stories told about me. I will be named in fear, in warnings, in myths. My children will be born from exile. I will raise them in a world without protection. I accept that. I accept that each day 100 of them will fall. That is the cost I take for the life I chose.
Her voice did not shake.
But let there be a sign. Let there be a mark of protection. If the names of Sonoy, Sansonoy, and Samanjalaf are written on a home, on a child's bed, or on an amulet, I will turn away. I will honor that sign. I will bring no harm where your names are present.
The angels stood quietly. They did not need to consult one another. The truth in her words carried strength. They recognized her clarity.
Your request will be honored. Those who bear our names will be guarded from you. That will be the mark.
And your answer will be delivered to God.
Then it is complete.
The wind lifted slightly, brushing against her wings. She stepped away from the sea and returned to the land she had chosen. The angels watched her go, then turned and rose from the shore. Their wings spread wide and they carried her answer back to the higher realms. In their flight, they did not speak. They did not question what had happened. Their mission had been fulfilled. Lilith had made her choice once again, without fear and without hesitation. God received their report without surprise. He had given her a command, but he had also known her heart. Her decision reflected the same strength she had shown since the beginning. Her exile continued, but not as punishment. It continued because she remained faithful to the truth she had chosen. From that day on, the names of the three angels appeared on scrolls and charms. They were carved into wood and written on walls. People placed them near cradles and beds, believing in the power of the agreement. And Lilith, true to her word, turned away from those places. She remained far from Eden, among the winds of the Red Sea, walking through a world shaped not by obedience, but by freedom. God watched Adam walk through the garden. He no longer believed that Lilith would return. Each day he moved more slowly, as if the garden had grown larger around him. His sleep came earlier, and his mornings began without purpose. So God prepared the ground for a second beginning. This time, he shaped a woman not from earth or flame or breath alone. He waited until Adam had fallen into deep sleep. Then, with care and precision, he reached into Adam's side and removed a single rib. From that rib, God formed a new body, one shaped to bring peace, not challenge. God gave her breath, and with that breath, he gave her presence. When Adam awoke, he saw her beside him. Her eyes met his, not with resistance, but with recognition. She did not speak first. She waited, and when Adam spoke, her face opened in calm reception.
She is of me. She is part of my own body.
He reached for her hand, and she did not hesitate. She walked beside him, listened to his words, and smiled when he named her. He called her woman, for she came from man. In time, she would be called Eve. She did not ask about Lilith. No one told her about the woman who had walked before her. She accepted the garden as it was and the man who guided her through it. She learned the names of trees and flowers. She sat beside the river, and laughed when Adam shared stories. Her days passed in gentle routine. From a distance beyond Eden, Lilith watched. She saw the two of them walk between the trees. She saw the way Eve placed her hand on Adam's shoulder. She watched her tilt her head in conversation, always turned toward him. Lilith did not watch with anger. She observed in silence, studying each moment as if it were a question.
She follows where he leads. She listens to the world through his voice. Her hands move with grace, but not with direction of their own. She was shaped from his body, and so she remains close to his will.
Lilith remembered the garden, not its colors or its sounds, but the sense of limitation that had pressed against her chest. She remembered the way her thoughts had no place to rest, the way her questions stood unanswered. She saw none of that in Eve. There was peace, but there was no fire.
She lives in comfort, but without knowledge of its cost. She does not know she was shaped from him, not beside him. She has never walked alone, and so she does not know what it means to stand.
Adam now smiled again. He no longer waited for the sound of wings in the sky. He no longer sat near the trees in silence. With Eve at his side, his words returned. He spoke with ease, and Eve listened with care. They laughed together. They sang sometimes, and the garden responded again, softly, but not as before. Lilith stepped closer to the edge of Eden. The trees did not block her path. The wind did not resist her. She saw Eve rest beneath the tree of knowledge with closed eyes, and how her fingers brushed the grass. Adam stood nearby, pulling down fruit from another tree. Lilith watched in silence.
She has never tasted anything forbidden, because she has never been told she could choose.
Eve opened her eyes and looked toward the branches above her. The fruit hung low, full and golden. Its scent floated lightly in the air. Eve's gaze lingered only a moment before she turned away and rejoined Adam. Lilith remained still.
They gave her peace, but not freedom. They gave her love, but no choice. If she cannot ask, she cannot grow. If she cannot choose, she cannot know herself.
The sky dimmed. The sun dipped below the edge of the garden. Adam and Eve moved toward the shelter of the trees. They lay beside one another and closed their eyes. Lilith walked through the tall grass. Her body shifted as she stepped into the shade of the tree of knowledge.
I walked this garden as a whole being. I left it by choice. They called that rebellion, but it was truth. Now she walks it with open hands and closed eyes. She does not yet know the cost of being made for someone else.
Lilith allowed her body to change. Slowly, with purpose, she shed the shape she once had. Her form became smaller, lower to the ground, and more fluid. In the space between the roots and the branches, she became a serpent. This shape gave her closeness to the earth and freedom from recognition. It allowed her to move without notice. She climbed up the tree with control. Her body wrapped around one of the lower limbs. Among the hanging fruit, she found one that rested within reach. The fruit was full and heavy, holding the knowledge she had once carried alone. From her place on the branch, she looked down at Eve, who was sleeping in the grass beneath the tree. Eve's presence remained peaceful, unaware. She had never asked about the tree. She had never been told why it mattered. Everything around her had been given without question, and she had never been invited to make a choice of her own. Lilith had come to open a path that Eve had never been shown. In her own way, she would give this woman a chance to choose. Lilith had once spoken the name of God and walked away. Now she would speak nothing at all and leave the choice in another's hands. This was not the end of paradise. It was the beginning of awareness. And from that moment, the human story would never be the same.